Well, hello everyone. So, depending on where you're watching from, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another Forge Dev Den, where we get to show live demos and talk about anything Forge. Last week, we explored how to create Forge powered charts and Jira custom fields while connecting to external data. In today's episode, we have with us my teammate, the Forge Queen herself, Katerina, who will talk about using Forge in Confluence to connect to external data, and Rovo. So I'm gonna pull Katerina from the backstage. Hello,
Hello, hi,
welcome
hi,
back. Yeah,
Ian, hi,
yeah,
everyone. Yes, always a pleasure to be back, even,
yeah.
1 week after the other. But, I thought like we should give a chance to our friends in EMEA and on this side of the world to see some Forge cool stuff as well, live and
Well,
not recorded.
yeah, it's always nice to have you here. 2 episodes in a row. Such a legend,
Mm.
Katerina.
All thanks to you.
Okay, good. Go to your there you go.
Yeah. So, as Ian was saying, so last week we had a presentation showing custom fields and charts. And in particular, we were showing how to load some data in our custom fields from external sources. But not just that, we were also showing how to get better, more powerful custom fields using Forge. So some examples were, we started with a fun example, which was F1 based, and we were showing like how you can play fantasy F1 using Jira. And that was just a way to show some of the capabilities that are available and some advanced formatting that you can represent. Like, for example, you can have your podium here, you can have like the numbers, and you can have a nice field where you alternate colors to make your text more visible when checking your custom field, as well as apply some additional logic, like, if you are aiming and guessing for the next race, you might want a green circle that is indicating which race are in the future. And we were also trying to make it very obvious which one is the next one by using some additional icons like our race car and an arrow and some text as well. And all of this is part of our Forge app logic. We also had something that is probably more meaningful and more work related, like the ability to load test environments from an external source. So that's this example here in the middle of our screen. And this is loading live. And the second drop down, so the environment one, the one that is expanded, is actually filtered based on the selection of the first field. And then on the right, we have a couple of charts that we also presented. So they are both bar charts, and they show the capabilities that you have when creating charts, in this case, in a Jira dashboard gadget, where you can combine multiple charts in one single gadget, and you can also apply some additional logic. So the one we are using here is we are weighting the score. So we are weighting the position of our drivers in the second one, while the first one is just counting how many votes each driver received. Ian shared the link already. Thank you in the chat. So if you're interested, go and check out our video on how you can bring some external data into your custom fields and how you can have some more powerful and cool custom fields to help your users make the right selection. So, and with that, let's get into the topic of today. So Today, the title of our event was Interactive Confluence. So we are going to show how you can integrate external data in Confluence. And on top of that, we will also be showing some AI analysis that you can do always on the external data using Forge and Rovo. So we will be starting showing a Confluence macro as well as a context menu that are showing our data from our external source. And we are also going to display the data in a smart way, which includes a chart. And yes, I will not forget about the Rovo agent, so stay tuned for that as well. Why this topic? So when I was preparing this presentation, I thought that I also wanted to share with you why we are talking about this today. And the answer is because you asked for it. So we are presenting it because you wanted to see this. A couple of months ago, I was preparing for an event and I ran a survey on LinkedIn asking which feature you wanted to see in Confluence with Forge. So what was, the top one feature that you wanted us to present about how to augment Confluence with Forge? And as you can see in the results, so the topic of connecting Confluence with other tools won by far. So 50% of you voted for this. If you have any other topics that you are interested to see, you can always let us know, and we will get to that at some point, hopefully not too late. So what is our use case today? So we want to present to you this use case that we came up with, and the idea is about bringing IT survey insights into Confluence. So you can imagine that maybe there is an IT team that is collecting some feedback, they're running some surveys, but all this information is not available in Confluence, is in a different tool, and maybe they need to copy and paste it to share it with some of their users, and all of this, it's like a manual process and can be time consuming. So what we built is a custom Confluence app, a Forge Confluence app that displays the data from the IT survey results directly into Confluence. And in this way, it's making it available to everyone. So the sample app and all the Forge resources that I'm sharing today are available at this link. So the link is go.atlassian.com/interactive-confluence, and the QR code goes to the same page. So if you want to check out the sample app that I'm using, feel free to go there. And maybe now it's good time, Ian, for saying hi to our viewers and to our participants.
Okay. We have Ulrich.
Yep.
Hey, Ulrich. And then
Thank you
there's
for like the emojis, Ulrich, that they are not showing up, but like we know what you mean.
ah, hey, Lars. Lars.
Hey, Lars.
The name
Yeah.
sounds really familiar.
Yeah, apparently it's not just the two of us from the same team today. So that's a bit of a surprise. Hi, Lars.
Hey, Lars. Okay.
Cool.
I think that's it.
Yeah. So I also want to say that in the resources that I shared at the previous link, we also have a link to the repository. If you want, you can access the repository directly by going at this URL. So this is go.atlassian.com/interactive-confluence, same as before, -repo. And the reason why I'm also sharing the repository is because this is not just a sample app, this is not just a repository, but it's actually a step-by-step tutorial. So we are not going to go through it today, but if you want to check out this topic on how to build a macro and how to show the data from an external source in Confluence and add some charts and add some smart display, you can follow this tutorial. So we don't always have step-by-step tutorials for dev dance, so I thought it was worth mentioning it right now. I think everyone has the link by now. So uh, let's get into the demo. Last week, everything worked for the demo, but we never know. We've tested it a couple of times. Hopefully, no surprises today. So, as we said, today we are going to show you not one, but 3 ways of using data from external sources in Confluence. So let's start with the first one. So I'm going to add the macro to our page. So this is the macro that we developed. So it's called IT Survey Dashboard. So let's load it. As you can see, it's not actually loading any data at the moment because we have a configuration for our macro, which is required. So, and as you can see, it opened automatically. I'm pointing this out and we'll get to this in a couple of minutes. So as soon as I inserted my macro, the config option, the config panel loaded. So let me select display mode. So we have 2 options. So the first one is a chart view and the second one is a table view. So let's start with our chart view. So what's happening here behind the scenes is that our Forge app is connecting to the survey results. And now that the data is back, it's showing us the results directly in our macro. So what this is representing is the average score, the average satisfaction score for 3 tools. And we also have a title here and some other information that are all coming from the external source. Our macro is also providing some additional logic. So if any of the tools have a score, an average score that is below a certain threshold, which I think was 3 in this example, we are adding this bar, this yellow warning bar at the bottom of our macro to indicate which tools have a very low satisfaction. I'm not a designer, so maybe this doesn't look pretty, but it does its job. So, again, it's part of the flexibility that you have when you are working with Forge, because all of this is in the logic of your macro. So, in this macro, we have a chart. So a chart is one of our UI visualizations, and you can simply bring them in as part of your macro or in many other locations as part of a Forge app. So you don't need to code everything for the chart. You just need to supply the data and or load the data and provide them as input to your chart. Let's check out our other mode. So the other mode that we have is a table view. So let's switch to that. When we click on that, there is another parameter here in our configuration, which is the number of rows per page. I decided not to have a predefined value, but we could have it as well. We could have a default. But here we have our 3 options. So these are the options of how many rows we can have in our page in our table. So let's select 10, for example. And as soon as I enter this value, we can see that now our macro has 10 items in each page, and we have 2 pages. So the pagination is managed directly by this component, which is called dynamic table. And as part of the dynamic table capabilities, you also get sorting by default. So you can sort by the value or maybe by the employee. So, and again, we left some of the data there at the top, some of the summary data from the top, at the top of our macro. So that's it for our macro. Let's update our page and let's show the second position, the second area where we are loading our data from the external sources. So we have some text here, and what we can do here is to show a context menu with more details about our satisfaction survey. So if I select one of the tools, and right click on it. So if I go here on the 3 dots, there is my app here, which is check tool feedback. So if I click on it, this is now loading the feedback specifically for the selected tool. So the app and the context menu have access to the selected text and are searching in the result data, in the survey data, for the feedback that is specific for this tool. So I'm still loading the satisfaction score, but I'm also loading some other data like the time wasted. So one of the criteria in the survey was how many minutes the teams thought they were wasting because of that tool. And I'm also loading the feedback, so the text feedback that the users submitted. And again, I'm adding some formatting. So because this score is very low, I'm adding this bar showing that the satisfaction is very low, so we are marking it as critical. So, 2 things, we've seen our macro, we've seen a context menu. Let's get to Rovo now. So, we added as part of this app a Rovo agent. So to open the Rovo agent, I can simply go here and look for my agent that I conveniently starred, but this is our IT survey analysis agent. So let me open it. A Forge agent comes already with some prompt and some conversation starters. Sorry, this is a conversation starter that you can define in the Forge app manifest. So let's look what it is suggesting. So from here, you can analyze our IT tool satisfaction survey and prioritize issues by business impact. So what we do if we select it is that we are combining the data from our external system, from our survey results with an LLM logic. So we are applying the logic uh, directly to we are applying the logic of the LLM to our survey results. So we have a couple of results here. We have like the analysis from our Rovo agent from the LLM. And maybe let's like dig a bit deeper. So I think like something that we could be asking is which is the department that we should prioritize. So as you can see, like each feedback survey comes already with a list of departments that are affected. And now we want to ask Rovo which one we should prioritize. So let's see if it does it. Um, okay, so Rovo is telling us that based on the survey data, we should be prioritizing the engineering department for IT improvements, and it's telling us why. So based on the results, so that's the department that is losing most of the time per person, and this is the highest time among all the departments. Okay, we trust it. The main thing that I want to highlight is that yes, we have the data, but it would take like some time to process this data and to get to the same conclusion if we were checking it on our own. While by having a Rovo agent, we are making the most of the LLM logic with a Forge Rovo, with our Forge Rovo agent. So this is the end of the demo. So I see that that there is one question. Yep. Okay, so the question is wondering if the Forge context menu can be filtered depending on the selected text. It would not make sense to have the app open on end. It's actually not possible. So as far as I know, it's the context menu will always be loaded. So let me show you what I mean. So even if I select, I think Ulrich was asking about like and. So let's use and in the example. So if I select it, the tool is still going to be visible. There isn't a way to control when to show it and when not. But what I did is I implemented the logic so that if there is no feedback, if this is not one of the available tools, then it's going to show a different message. I don't think there are any other questions, but I'll say hi to a couple of people. Sorry, I was looking at my screen, so I didn't have time to message you. I'll do it in a couple of minutes. Oh no, Ian is bringing your names up. So hi, Liz, and hi, Rauliki, I think. Yes. Hi. Cool. So let's go back to our slides. And so to recap, we started the presentation showing a macro, which is loading our external data, and it also has some macro config options. I have a snippet here. I have a screenshot of the data to give you an idea of which kind of data we are dealing with. So this is a JSON. It's actually a JSON file that we are storing in the repository so that if you take the app, you can just use it as is and you don't need to sign up for any external system if you want to play around with this app. But the idea is that you have a JSON response, which is what any external system would return if you are connecting to it using REST APIs. So this is the data that we've been using in our demo. And I also wanted to show again our config options for the macro. Let's get into the technical details. So I'll take you now through the flow of our app for each of the components that we've seen, and I'm going to highlight a couple of interesting bits and pieces from a technical perspective, from the perspective of our Forge app. So starting with the macro. and the manifest and how the macro is defined in the manifest. I would also love to know if anyone ever created a Forge macro. So, if you did, maybe you can share with everyone what you used it for. And if you never did, it's totally fine as well. That's why we are here, to show you the capabilities and to show you maybe how cool it is. So, in our manifest, we have defined our macro module, which is then loading the front end logic in a file called macro.jsx. Um, Also, if you still have the link to the repository, maybe you want to go and check it out while I'm presenting, if that's what you like. Otherwise, it's there for you at any time to get back to that later. So, how is the rendering flow of our chart view in the macro? So, and right now I'm presenting the chart view, and then I'll point out a couple of the differences when instead we are loading the dynamic table. So, our Confluence page is loaded, and that's going to load the macro. So when Confluence load the macro component is going to be retrieved from the front end of our app, so from the macro.jsx file. That file contains the logic to invoke the backend function that is called get tool averages. And that's because in the chart view, we were only showing the averages of the satisfaction for each tool. So the invoke is being served, is being provided by the resolver, and the resolver file name is survey-data.js. In the resolver, you'll find a call, which is the api.fetch, which is going to one URL, and the URL is the URL of our external APIs. Our external APIs are then returning the survey JSON data that we saw a couple of slides earlier, and the resolver is also in charge in our logic to calculate the averages that are then returned to the macro component for rendering of our chart. So as I said, the flow is pretty much the same for both of the macro rendering flows. So the main difference is that when we are loading the table, so our dynamic table, instead of doing an invoke for the get tool averages, there is another function that is being called there, which is retrieving all the data, because in the table we are displaying not a summary, but we are displaying the names and the scores for each tools. And also there are no averages being calculated there. The entire set of data is being returned. So this is the flow for the rendering of our macro. If you remember, when I added the macro to the page, I pointed out that our config panel opened by default, and that's because of this option that we have in the manifest. So in the manifest, we have open on insert option, which is part of the config property. So this is how you can control if the configuration of your macro should open when you are adding the macro or not. So let's check the macro configuration flow. So your user will insert or edit the macro, and Confluence will then render the config, which is defined in our macro component. So the configuration is still defined in the same file as our macro. So the same that we were talking about in the macro rendering flow. So that's the macro.jsx. And The config is then returned to Confluence, which is then displaying it to the user. The user sees the configuration and then submit it, which is then going to be stored in our macro component. So this is how you set up your macro configuration. What's next? So what's next? Our context menu. Um, let's look into that. So as a reminder, this was our contextual menu, so which we were using to load some data like the average score, but also the specific feedback for that tool. In particular, we were loading like the text that users entered in the survey. So it's a way to give you the information about a tool at a glance. So let's check the flow for that. So the manifest has a component, has a module that is called the Confluence context menu, which is then defined in a new file. So the new file is the context-menu.jsx. So, and if we have a look at our flow for this, so we saw that the user would be right-clicking on the text. The context menu would be displayed, and the logic would actually be sent to the resolver again to our backend. But in this case, we are calling our function. So we are using the invoke get tool feedback function, also providing a parameter. So this is something that we didn't do earlier. So I think like even last week, all the functions were just using an invoke with no parameter, but in this case, the tool name that you see there is a parameter that we are passing back to the resolver. So, and that's how then the resolver is going to retrieve the information specifically for that tool using, again, the API.fetch with a different URL in this case. And that's how we are going to retrieve the data from our external API. Same as before, a survey JSON data is being returned, and that includes the satisfactions, the complaints, all the other data that we've seen, and that's then being displayed by our context menu component to the user. And that's it for the context menu. So let's move on to our Rovo agent with LLM analysis capabilities. So this is a reminder of our Rovo agent, and you can see there your conversation starters, which we can then see in the Forge manifest. So in the Forge manifest, we have our Rovo agent module being defined. We have our conversation starters as well as the prompt. So the prompt is defined in the manifest, and it's what controls what the LLM does. And that's also where the actions are connected. So in your prompt, you'll need to define the action, which is then going to be available in your backend, and it's going to access the data from the external source. So let's have a look at our flow. So the flow is, we have a user. Our user is going to ask a question to our Rovo agent. The Rovo agent, based on the prompt configuration, is going to invoke the get survey data, which is a function in our resolver. So in this app, we are using a single resolver file, which is the surveydata.js. And again, we are then running an API.fetch to retrieve the data from the external source. The data is returned, and what's happening is that we are actually passing all the data that is being returned to the Rovo agent, and in the prompt, we are specifying how we want the data to be processed, and the LLM magic. The LLM logic is then applied to provide back to our users the AI response. And yeah, this is the same both for the conversation starter. So both when I clicked on the conversation starter or when I entered my text. So my question, the flow is exactly the same. There is no difference there. And I think that's it for today for my presentation. I have the link to the resources here again. So if you want to check out all the modules that we talked about, or if you want to go and check out the repository, the source code for this presentation, you can go there and check it out. And yeah, if you don't know me yet, I would love to connect on LinkedIn as well. As I like to say, I post a lot of Forge related things. So hopefully one day you'll learn a couple of things from me on LinkedIn.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you, Katerina. That was a really good demo. And I think the audience will agree when I say that your macro looks good and informative.
Oh,
Even though
are you
even though
sure
you
it
have a
looks good?
disclaimer. Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, I think it looks nice. The colors are good. So while we wait
Yeah.
for, I think we still have some time for questions.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions for Katrina, put your questions in the chat below. So
Hmm.
okay, there you go. I think we do have one question,
Yeah.
Katerina. Okay.
I wonder if the macro can ask Rovo and render the Rovo agent response. Like
I
I so can ask Rovo. Like this sounds to me like we want to have our macro to process some data and display it in the macro, maybe so that we don't even need to go to the agent. I think this is something we are working on with the Forge LLMs.
was gonna
So
say that. Yep.
yeah, like so, which I think it's in EAP and it's in it's a you have to sign up for that. It's not an open one.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe that's like a good topic for a future DevDan. I was just thinking, like, did we have one on that? No, we
Yes, it's in the works. Thinking about this one, so we just launched the Forge LLMs API EAP a couple of weeks back or last week. So if you haven't signed up for the EAP, Ulrich, I suggest you do so. It seems like what you're asking here is something that can be done through that API.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
While waiting for other questions, Katerina, I do have one for you,
Oh, you do
if you
have a
don't mind.
question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. No, it's
Go.
so as we close out. Yeah, as we close out the calendar year of 2025, what
Mm-hmm.
Forge feature are you most excited about? Maybe just one,
Hmm.
two, if at
Oh.
least the ones that we can talk about publicly. But yeah,
Like it feels like a tricky question that you ask me like one or two, because you know that like once I start talking, like I can come
yeah,
up with like a lot of things. So
yeah. That's why I said two to give you the limit. So normally I just
Okay.
say just one, but since we're friends, you can have two.
Okay, so I like so like something that like I'm very happy about is that I've seen some more development in the Bitbucket space. So not sure how many of you remember, but a couple of years ago I was very active in the Forge for Bitbucket space, and I was happy to see that like same as you, Ian. I don't remember if it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, but there have been a couple of new modules being released. So one of them is actually a context menu in the code. And then there have been like two more modules, one for the project settings. So now you can display and enter in the project settings. And there is also one new option that is available at the global level, at the workspace level. So this was my answer number one, by the way, like Bitbucket.
Okay.
And the other one that I was looking into yesterday, but it's been around like for a bit longer, but I think it just went GA, is the ability to call Forge actions in automation. So
Yep.
we've like the way I think about that usually is that like I just create a product trigger. So, but it's actually beneficial in certain cases to have a forge action, so you can configure some of the logic in automation, and then you can just leave some of the logic to the Forge app. So you can play this mix and match approach.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah,
Sounds.
I'm like I was looking into that. I'm planning to try it out very very soon.
Mhm. Okay, those are good
Yeah.
answers. Well, if you ask me, I'm pretty
Yes,
excited with
Ian. What
the.
about you?
No, no.
Seems like you
I'm
really
thinking.
want to say something.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Forge LLMs API because if you remember back in Barcelona in October, we conducted
Mm-hmm.
the Rovo session, and then after that workshop, we get some ad hoc questions around how to access the LLM using
Yep.
Forge. And we don't
Yeah.
have a definite answer back then yet, but now we do. So I'm pretty excited on what apps the developer community will build on top of those APIs. Actually, I
Mm.
found the link for the AP. I'm posting it in the chat right now.
Cool.
There you go.
And yeah, I can also see Ulrich agrees with you. So I think
Yep.
you won the prize about the most exciting feature that is coming. If I base it on that.
Yep. Let's see how we can pull that off, but most
Yeah.
likely by next year. Okay.
Nice.
Okay. We
Um,
checking the chat. We don't have any more questions. But before we say goodbye, Catherine, I believe you have something in the
yeah.
works that you want to tell everyone.
Yes, yes. So, with a colleague that I think most of you haven't seen yet, we are working on something new. I like to call that like a little surprise, but I think as soon as I share it, it's not a surprise anymore. So, how do I call it? But yeah, so to keep the story short, because as you can probably tell, like I can talk for a long time. So I think Ian is even surprised that, we didn't go over time as usual today.
Yep.
Anyway, to keep the story short, we are working on a new format, which is going to be some live coding. So fully live coding with us. So me and my colleague, we will be joining the live coding, I think, every 2 weeks. That's the current plan. Christmas is going to get a bit in the way of that, but the plan is every couple of weeks to show something new. So to do some live coding on one of the latest features that has been released. So probably based on the changelog initially, and then we'll do it hopefully based on what you want to see. And you, it's not Diane, it's you, everyone. And then we'll go through some common use cases. So that's the idea. So every session will show something new and some common use cases. So, and the first stream should be on the 18th of December.
December. Ooh,
Yeah,
just before
that's very
Christmas.
soon.
So,
Just before
yeah.
Christmas, yes.
Okay. I also have something to promote,
Mm,
Katerina. So hot off
okay.
the oven. So we earlier today actually we have launched the Forge Fundamental Certificate. So if you
Yep.
want to test your knowledge and perhaps earn your certificate, check out this QR code. Hang on. There you go. So you can check out the QR code, or I'll also post the link in the chat. So if you want to test your knowledge about Forge and earn a certificate, you might want to check this out. So it
Cool.
just launched less than 12 hours ago,
Yeah, I
roughly,
didn't
give or
take it
take.
yet.
I haven't taken the
Yeah.
public one. We both have taken the internal one. So
Yeah, but
so we're
I
good.
like I told you that doesn't count.
Okay. Checking the chat. Do we have any more questions?
I
Doesn't
don't
seem like
see
it.
any. Nope.
Yep. And I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So that's
So
it for. Oh, sorry. Go on, Katarina.
Oh,
Before.
yeah. So yeah, then yes, Ulrich, we both hope to pass. Like
Oh, we did.
we, yeah,
Thank you.
and same applies to you. And yeah, so thank you for joining. If I don't see you, I hope everyone will have some time to rest and relax in December, and see you soon somewhere around the world. And I think the same
Mhm.
applies to you, Ian, because it's
Yep.
been a month since we've been in the same place.
Yep.
Yep.
Actually, we have so two things before we go. One thing. Next week we have an event at Berlin. So if in
Mhm.
case anyone from you is from that region, you might want to attend the Developer Day on Tour. So that's going to be next week. And again, thank you, Katerina, for gracing us with your presence. 2 events in a row. Thank you very much. And for everyone, we hope that you learned something of value today. And that said, we'll hope to see you on the next Forge Dev then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.